Welcome to Step into Abundance 360 podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Ao, DTM. Step into Abundance 360 podcast is a bilingual radio program in which focuses on creating a more abundant mindset with the sense of possibilities and security, and to live is abundant fullness of joy and strength for your mind, body, and soul. In this podcast, I will be interviewing the entrepreneurs, professionals, and elite from all walks of life in our community. And we can all learn and get inspired from them. Eventually, we can take things to the next level and push the success and abundance of your business and lifestyle even further. And now, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Step into Abundance 360 podcast. Today, we have Jahanzaib Saeed. He is the Lalamove Global Expansion Manager, and his influence is made by overseeing all aspects of Lalamove digital presence by delivering results for the entirety Southeast Asia. Welcome, Jahan.
Thank you.
So, first of all, I know that Jahan, you graduated in Lancaster studying finance and accounting, right? So how do you start your journey in marketing?
That's a good question. Thanks for inviting me, first of all, for the podcast. Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that it was more by accident that happened. I was actually just looking for internship back in anywhere, because if you remember, like back in 2015, 2016, Southeast Asia's landscape of startups was just picking up. So I was just wanting to kind of travel or on that side of the world after my bachelor's. Yeah, I just came across an internship that I did, a company called Happy Fresh. It's like Instacart of Southeast Asia. They're very similar to Honest Bee. You might have heard of them in Hong Kong, but obviously they went out of money and they are bankrupt now. But the grocery model was pretty new. So I did my sort of an internship there, and they were looking for, marketing people. And so for during my internship, I ended up doing quite a bit of like marketing, general basic stuff that you do, sending email, writing on Facebook and stuff like that. It was pretty easy for me, especially when I studied, finance. This was not really challenging enough in the beginning. But so getting into marketing sort of just happened like that. And I was just wanting to do an internship, and I liked it. So, but I ended up going into more on the performance marketing side, which was a bit more a numbers driven approach to marketing. So that's sort of what the story is, how I ended up doing marketing. Obviously now I don't do marketing anymore. I am focusing more on country expansion. Yeah, I mean, since then, just never got a chance to step out and go back to finance because it's not really easy to go back into finance right away, especially when you're in such a different field, when you start your career somewhere else. And then obviously finance or the investment industry is not really easy to get into either. So you have to either you have to study from Ivy Leagues or which I didn't, but I tried my best. Don't get me wrong. I did apply to a million banks, but I just didn't get in.
And now it is about global new country expansions.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back, I think everything turned out to be, the way generally how you look at your life is just, you just don't plan it that way. And you might not like it in the present, but when you look back, you're able to sort of connect those dots. So
yeah, exactly. So as we know that you have many different experience in the past, right? And now we would like to focus on current project that you have dealing, which is Lalamove. As we know that it is a new business, new startup, right? So it is an Asia-based technology company that offering intra-city delivery service in more than 90 cities across Asia, right?
Yeah.
So how could you set up the global expansion strategies, and how was the digital marketing works?
So I think for expansion in the industries, you generally either would have more product expansion or geographical expansion. For this context, it's basically more geographical expansion. So there are two components to it, and actually digital marketing plays a huge role there because it actually allows us to run things faster or validate certain market, let's say, indicators faster, for example. So for Lalamove, I think if you understand the business, we are applying a ride-sharing model on logistics in a way. So we actually do not own any vehicles ourselves. But we actually onboard freelance drivers who want to become part of the platform and actually make money and delivering packages which is what they would like. I don't know. I think you're from Hong Kong. I don't know if I'm not sure, but you might have heard of Lalamove quite a bit here, and you see all those brands.
We've seen the apps, the mobile apps.
Yeah. So how does that work? Is like for us, it's really, really important to look at two things. One, like what's the population? Population really has an impact on our ability to be able to deliver well. One is because when you apply a ride-sharing model to logistics, what this means is that driver has the freedom to work whenever they want. There's not a time schedule. The same way when you, let's say, order an Uber right now, I don't know, you're sitting maybe in, let's say, Central in Hong Kong, and then sometimes you get it on peak time, sometimes you can't get a driver in peak time because all drivers are busy. So similar sort of a concept applies to obviously logistics in this context. There's always, but you will always find that most of the time you are able to get a driver because there's so much around you, and there's so much around you that happens more and more is when you have more population in the city. So the first thing we look at obviously is population density of the city. Secondly, obviously we look at regulations. It's a huge component of it. For example, I remember earlier this year when we were looking at global expansion, we were even doing research in Africa, in Nigeria, Kenya, even also Dubai, in Middle East, Turkey, and we ended up choosing the United States as the next expansion location. And we have already successfully launched Chicago, Dallas, and Houston this year. So yeah, sorry, I want to just jump back quickly to the original question. In terms of, so going back to one being population density being a huge part of it. Secondly is how much of the rate of age is like unemployed, for example, or young, let's say, or who have enough cars. Car ownership is important because we actually need cars for us to be able to cars or trucks or vans. In Hong Kong, as you know, any small family is actually making money through a van. In a way, you will find it like, so for us, it was very easy to launch in Hong Kong because the vans are like the bread and butter of Hong Kong, with logistics being a component. You can see we have double-decker buses here. Large vehicles were always, because of the space issue, was something important city. And we are from Hong Kong anyway, so it made sense for us to launch from Hong Kong. So for new cities, like when we launched in the United States, we picked Dallas and Houston because Dallas in Texas has a lot of pickup trucks and a lot of big vehicles, which makes it much easier for us to actually manage logistics better. And the third component was Chicago. Third city was Chicago, and Chicago is sort of a Midwest logistics hub for a lot of the trade that takes place in the United States. So Sprinter vans were pretty common in Chicago. These are some of the factors that they would use to make that decision. How digital marketing comes into play here is one, we're able to run a lot of tests or campaigns online to test what do the drivers want, how much money they want to make, so that we can create pricing. We run like experiment campaigns through Facebook, Google search, programmatic. And we also work with a lot of third-party research companies as well who help us collect data on driver income, what are drivers' expectations, how much they're making right now, how much they're making money from other platforms, how much stuff like that. So digital marketing helps us sort of pre-qualify by having them sign up in advance, even without us having like physical office in place. And we are able to sort of use Facebook and Google channels generally to be able to build initial demand and supply as well. That's generally been the approach we take.
Wow. It sounds like a lot of thought and effort behind the scenes. And
yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. Especially we have the market research, like about the market, about the driver, because they are the engine of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we don't have drivers, we can't really. And another important culture also plays a role. Like in some cities, generally, like when we went to Turkey, people don't like doing freelance jobs. And actually, this is common in Taiwan as well, a little bit. People actually people love having a full-time job. Actually, in Taiwan, by law, like we actually, if a driver stays with you for 5 years, we actually have to pay him like pension.
Is it?
So yeah, there are some laws. There are some labor laws that are there, and that varies in, let's say, in France, like when we did research in Europe, the labor laws are so, let's say, more employee friendly. Like in Hong Kong, we have over 10,000 drivers, but 10,000 drivers are not our employees. They're actually a freelance model where they can actually be part of the platform and actually utilize the platform to make money whenever they feel it's fit. And it's a tricky topic because in rideshare, I know you might have heard in the United States, Uber had to attract a lot of regulations in California. But the reality is that a lot of people people don't want to be binded to a company. They want that flexibility. So yeah, the drivers, so it really varies. In some markets, we really have to mindful of those things.
That's excellent example. So which lead to the next questions. So how can you lead a team? Diversifications like cross-culture management. So how could you figure out?
I think that's a good question. We face this right now, even with when we launched Dallas, Houston recently. Definitely, it requires you to build a lot of empathy with what they're going through and how you lead. And a lot of that starts with understanding what the culture is, what the norm is, and respectful about it. I mean, it's an area where when you do, like right now, we're also doing research in Korea and Japan, for example. But so understanding their norms, their culture, speaking to more people. So I think the ways that we look at is having common values. No matter what culture you have, if you have common values to be successful, you want to drive execution. So we in the company have various values that we look up to. And as long as you possess and show that, so for us as a company, we believe in 4 values, and that is passion. Obviously, passion, you really, really need to have it, and we really pay attention to it. The second thing is what we call grit. If you have the passion, but not the willing to take the challenges and not quit. If you don't have the grit, it also doesn't make sense. The third value is what we call execution. So whatever you do, whatever your passion, if you can't execute well, no matter what you do, you're not going to see the same results. And the last value we have is humility, meaning accepting mistakes when you think you're not right, never being complacent, never thinking that you're the best in the world, always being humble. So these are 4 values that really we follow that through end to end across the world. We are also present in Mexico. We're also present in Brazil. We have a team in Brazil, in Mexico. We have a team in the United States. And I think what's been binding us together is these values. That being said, the most important than this is just having the passion to solve customer problems.
The customer is the guide, so we have to solve the problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of organizations end up deciding their goals based on what they want, actually. And this is a very common. For example, a company or CEO would say, hey, I want to make $1 million in revenue. You're thinking more from yourself, and then you go and market your product to get what you want from the customer. A different opposite thinking would be, hey, how can I help my customer make $1 million? And that requires different thinking. Being customer obsessed, like when you look at companies like Amazon, Apple, I know these are big cliche names, but they are like great examples of how customer obsession has gotten them where they are today.
Yeah, it is really about empathy. You know, you have to put yourself into somebody's shoes, feel the struggle and fix it. That is wisdom. Thank you so much.
Right. Yes.
Have you ever faced struggle, like when you handling tasks, and how did you overcome it?
Do you mean specifically in expansion, or do you mean in general in life?
Like in general, or specifically in expanding the business?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we see a lot of challenges. Personal life, I won't go into it detail, but like that really is, we could go into a lot of details there, but like more in the business context, I think that the challenges, like for example, when we did launch, I can give you an example, when we launched Mexico, let's say our business results were just not very good. The market was slow, it was challenging, it was a little bit obviously discouraging as well. Sometimes when you face challenges, the best way is to just close your eyes and keep doing what you're doing, and things generally become better. And that's what we call grit. When things get a little bit tough, is not questioning yourself. And I can't give a specific example yet because like there's so many of them, but generally, and not all the time that you are actually overcome the challenge as well. Sometimes the challenge gets the best of you. And I think that's okay sometimes to fail. We always have this tendency to, I should be successful, or I should find a way. Sometimes it's again not trying to find a way, and I think accepting that is quite important. Otherwise, you just end up being more stressful.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. So it is okay to fail.
Obviously not being failing because you want to fail. It's just failing because, it's okay. Yeah.
Learn from the experience. That is the key.
Yeah.
So what is the most memorable or most unforgettable lesson that you have learned?
Forgettable lesson to me, I think this happened earlier this year when we did launch in newer markets, especially in the United States. In the beginning, obviously, it's a lot of testing going on about what you want to do, how you want to market yourself. There was a point where, I don't know, we were like, hey, are we sure there is even a market there? Like we were really questioning ourselves. And then we would would think about a lot. Like, for example, whenever you start a new business entirely, in the beginning is always slow. Yeah, because your brand is new. You're just getting used into the customer. Nobody just suddenly starts to love you. That's something that doesn't exist. Whether that's a brand or whatever that's a person, or whether that's a company even. Like, you really need to be consistent. But at the same time, everyone has a tendency to ask for fast results. I think this is becoming quite common recently, where people just want fast results. People are impatient. This happens on the business side. You can see that happening in the stock market, where people are wanting to make fast gains. How can I make more money quickly? How can I go fast? So that we have seen that to be a bit of, so to me, like earlier this year, that lesson that I think that was worth learning was that you just can't make success happen overnight.
Yeah.
You just have to just focus. And for us, we were just like, we thought a lot about like, hey, what can we change? And we have already made changes in our business strategy. But at the end of the day, we just kept going. And that's what it has. And now our business is doing pretty well in the United States. 3 months ago, we were, questioning ourselves. So that's
congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, that just requires us being consistent. And as long as, we learn from the mistakes, you're on a good trajectory.
Yeah, totally agree. Like, the Rome is not built in one day. So we have to be.
Yeah, that's exactly I was going to say. I didn't say that, but you said it already. Yeah, but Rome is not built in a day.
Yeah. Have to be patient for the result. So the next question is, what is your opinion on how the market would be evolving in worldwide after the COVID?
I think that it's definitely an interesting times that we live in. I look at it is that in the future, or especially in the next 2 years, I think when we look at consumer behavior is, humans obviously have become a lot more, the bar for consumers has increased quite a lot, even more so than with the products, the competition, the luxury, the brands, and the entrepreneurship that's taking place across the world. Everyone is offering innovation. So there's going to be a lot of innovation in the market in the next couple of years, I think, even more so than we think. Like, I'm not saying there was not enough innovation before, but we're going in the second phase of that, where for every small problem, there is a solution. For every small problem, there's an app. For every small problem, there's something to fix. As a result of that, what would that mean is some of the companies will become bigger. And obviously that means that there will be a lot of entrepreneurship in the market that we will see. Secondly, I also see in the market, especially global markets, being influenced a lot by nationalism. That's going to be a huge component of that in the next couple of years. You can see that with the two biggest economies, which is United States and China, the way their trade deals, their trade agreements actually impact the entire world. Because there is geopolitical alliances. Markets are going to be really, really dependent on what decisions the leaders of the states make, for example. Like, for example, yesterday, China signed a huge deal with Europe, which is a huge investment deal that they've been working on for a long time. That actually changes a lot of things for how the United States is going to come into play here. So these things actually have a huge impact on the market. This means that also how pandemic, and I think pandemics are not going to go away. Actually, they might happen more and more in the future as people become more conscious about themselves. There's maybe a lot of things around us we just don't know, actually. So what that means is that there might be more discoveries of these things in the future, but I see markets being really prepped on is more medical innovation. That's a third component that I thought is quite, I was just thinking today, like, it took the entire world, or the top of the top experts in the world, to put 6 months into a lab to create a vaccine. Like, 6 months is a lot, actually.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, because for a vaccine, normally it takes like 5 to 10 years, right?
I think that honestly, it should have been even faster. Like, in order to come up with a solution, if the world is taking too long to respond, then obviously the problem is just going to get a lot bigger. To me, I think I see the world on the markets becoming very driven by, let's say, more aestheticism in a way, with more media being available, a lot of new channels coming up where people are sharing content. People are going to become a lot more expressive as we move forward. This may be more behavioral trends that I see coming up in the markets as we move forward. I think that next year, at least, it's just all about recovery right now. Next year, all that the markets have lost, all the businesses that have been lost, you can expect next year just to be in a recovery mode. I think once we go back to the days of glory where things are booming, I think that's where I see markets being a little bit more progressive. Right now, everything is about liquidity. How do I get, even on the investor side, and you see in the capital markets, people pulling a lot of money out of the markets because they're just not sure what the future is. So yeah, I don't know if I answered all of that big question about where the markets will go, but those are some of the thoughts I had on my mind.
Yeah, excellent. So it is about more people stepping out of the comfort zone and be entrepreneurs, to have more medical innovations. So it is about the relationship between like two biggest country in the world, China and the USA. So we are looking forward to have more unexpected or expected results coming next year, which is like just one day.
Yeah, just one day actually. It's gonna be happening pretty soon. Yeah.
Time has gone so fast, man. So
yeah, that's true.
So if you want to continue to learn and stay on the top of your own market, what would you continue to learn in order to stay on the top of your market or your positions? So what would you learn?
To me, I think one of the best things that a business can do is what we should continue to learn is, or what we should continue to do is how is your product or your service is shaping behavior of your customer. And always like that is something I do quite a lot. It's like every Friday I will actually read all reviews from customers, go to Facebook, look at comments myself, go to the App Store, get what customers are saying. In order to stay top of the market, you have to be on top for your customer in a way. And that's very clear. Like, when you, like, I don't know if I can give an example, but let's say when you go buy a mobile phone, let's say, for you, like what really matters is whatever you decided were the key factors that you wanted to have from this purchase. You have to feel it. Did I get it or not? Like an iPhone 12, like when you just buy a new iPhone 12, did I get the objectives that I had from this transaction that I was doing? If your customers sometimes feel that and sometimes your customers don't feel that, but your goal is always to make sure they continue to feel good about your service. And so learning about their problems is what helps us become better how to solve them actually.
So in order to stay on the top of the market, you have to understand what your client, your customer need and what like current issue they are facing.
Yeah. And this may sound simple, like someone could go and ask, hey, how do I create a great business? Hey, make sure that you deliver a great service to your customers. Like, it's no, a genius thing to say, but it actually matters a lot. What that means is what drives your business for you, as opposed to just saying that, I care about my customer. But at the end of the day, if you just don't care, no matter how much you say it, it won't matter.
So therefore, you have to walk the talk.
Yeah, you have to walk.
You cannot just say it and then you forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that at the end of the day, a lot of entrepreneurs say, we want to solve customer problems and we want to be more inspirational and more purposeful. But at the end of the day, they end up not being those people, let's say. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying this is in every organization, but organizations that I've seen really deliver performance. And some of the companies that I really look up to, obviously, I think Uber, Amazon, these are some of the companies that have done successful apps. They're more self-centered than they're more customer-centered. Like every company has an obsession. Apple is a product-obsessed company. Amazon is a customer-obsessed company. Google is technology-obsessed company, actually. You will always see a DNA in every company, and that's how they lead. For us, we are actually operators. We are actually logistics operators. That's the DNA of our company. For Lalamove, we are very logistics-obsessed. So you may find our app is not very sexy, but our app is not that, flashy and, with like 30,000 things inside. It's straightforward. It's simple. It gets the job done. What we focus on is how do we make sure our drivers deliver better.
Have a smooth delivery. Well done. So could you give one tips to young professional who is going to become an entrepreneur soon? So do you have any advice? Obviously,
passion, all these things, they really need to have it at the end of the day. Secondly, I think the most important thing is taking risks, but taking the right risks. I don't think that you should be afraid to dream big. Second thing is execution and learning from your mistake. Execution meaning that you will find a lot of companies want to do many things, but they just not end up executing something well. It could be like they roll out a product or they imagine like product was rolled out and there's so many bugs inside and you can't use it. There's issues there. Like this is poor execution. And I've seen a lot of companies who don't have great ideas, but if they can execute something well, they actually have a competitive edge sometimes over your competitors. So execution and actually making sure that what you're actually doing is effective. You don't need to do 10,000 things, but you have to pick 2 to 3 things you want to do to make them effective. Whenever you're starting a business or whenever you're starting something, it's more about what can you do as an entrepreneur that can drive more effectiveness and results. And results only come through good execution. And I think, maybe if I think that I would say is probably learning from your mistakes, not closing your eyes towards your own, let's say, failures, which ends up just you continue to repeat the same thing over and over again. So, I mean, to me, if you have these things in your mind, I think that when you look at Uber, right, and you can look at Lyft in the United States, Lyft was exactly copy of Uber. But they actually did execute some of the things better than Uber. So they are their competitor now. To me, that's like, you can copy the same thing. If you can do it slightly better, it can matter more. But you have to execute it at the same quality as well.
So execution is the key.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all ideas. If you don't get executed.
That's important concept and message. So actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, most of the time, yes.
Well done. So what is your next plan?
Well, to me, I want to continue to be part of Lalamove. I think when I joined the company, we were only just about in five countries, and now I've seen over so many employees over the world, so many drivers, and so many. To me, that's where I see myself focusing more on and being as a part of the company's growth in the next couple of years. And obviously continue developing myself as well in the company. There are a lot of things I want to focus on myself, like more management skills, more maturity. Nobody's perfect. Even if you're 40 or 50, you can still learn something. Those are some of the things that I would say.
Yeah, keep learning.
Sounds very cheesy, but that's true. Yeah,
that's the truth. Keep learning. Be a lifelong learner. Thank you, Johan, and I hope you have a good year of prosperity and good health.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, keep learning and live in abundance. I will see you next time.